Your 2026 strategic roadmap looks perfect on the paper, but I have just spent the last 72 hours trying to completely tear it down from the inside. We have deployed a fleet of autonomous digital twins programmed specifically to sabotage our operations and trigger a total structural collapse. If your organization cannot survive these synthetic agents, it will not survive the real world. Watch exactly how we find the breaking point before it costs you your best talent. It is April 28, 2026, and the traditional corporate hierarchy is officially obsolete. We are using high-fidelity agentic personas to simulate 2 entire years of organizational friction in just a few hours. By pressure testing our talent retention and workflow bottlenecks with digital clones, we are uncovering hidden catastrophic vulnerabilities that the human management consultant would never find. This is how you stress test the future without risking a single real-world employee. What happens when you hire a digital twin specifically to quit your company and leak your operational bottlenecks? We are running a high-stakes adversarial simulations to see exactly where our 2026 organizational development strategy fails under extreme synthetic pressure. Instead of waiting for a crisis to happen, we are inducing it right now to save our most valuable human capital later. See the exact mathematical moment our rigid structural crumbles and learn how we are rebuilding them to be an absolute unbreakable. Before I completely deconstruct the death of a traditional HR consultant and expose the exact architectural blueprint of an adversarial agentic simulation, and give you the precise logic to deploy your own fleet of digital twins to fortify your corporate balance sheet, hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell. I post daily videos showing you exactly how to navigate the global labor and capital market using cold, hard engineering logic. You do not want to miss these execution protocols. Stop experimenting on your human employee. Stop waiting for the exit interview to tell you why your company is failing. Grab a notebook, it is time to simulate the collapse. Welcome back, I'm Dr. HR. To understand why my approach to the organization development, human capital, and artificial intelligence is aggressively different from the soft, theoretical advice peddled by the legacy business school, you must understand my underlying structural logic. I hold a PhD in Human Resources, a master's from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences TSS in Mumbai, and a bachelor's in Computer Engineering. I do not look at an organization as a family or a biological community. I look at it as a complex, multivariable computational matrix. Operating on the ground here in Dubai since 2010, consulting for Tier 1 corporate entities, sovereign wealth funds, and apex tech founders, I have monitored exactly how elite infrastructure is built. In civil engineering, you do not build a skyscraper and wait for an earthquake to see if the steel holds. You build a digital model and you run a high-stakes synthetic seismic simulation. In 2026, we are finally applying that exact same engineering rigor to human capital. Let us systematically deconstruct this sovereign executive protocol through 5 distinct phases. The fragility of a blueprint, architecting the digital twin, the adversarial simulation, identifying the breaking point, and the sovereign reconstruct. Phase 1, the fragility of the blueprint, the paper illusion. We must first diagnose the exact debilitating vulnerability of how global corporations currently design their operational structure. For the last 50 years, organization development OD was executed by a highly paid consultant sitting in boardrooms. They interviewed executives, sent out subjective employee engagement surveys, and drew neat geometric boxes on a PowerPoint slide. They designed the perfect reporting structure. They rolled out the new roadmap, congratulated themselves, and collected a massive consulting fee. 6 months later, the organization is actively bleeding capital. The top engineers are resigning. The new Oracle SCM deployment is hopelessly bottlenecked. The cross-functional teams refuse to communicate. Why did the perfect blueprint fail? Because a PowerPoint slide assumes a frictionless vacuum. It assumes that human beings operate as perfectly logical, emotionless data transfer node. It completely ignores the messy, irrational, high-latency reality of a corporate politics, ego, fatigue, and burnout. Traditional OD relies entirely on lagging indicators. You only realize the structure is broken after your best director of operations quit and the project fails. The traditional roadmap is a fragile illusion. When you deploy an untested structural hierarchy into the biological chaos of the real world, you're running a massive unauthorized experiment on your own human capital. The financial cost of this experimentation, lost revenue, catastrophic turnover, and plummeted market share, is staggering. In the hyper-accelerated market of 2026, waiting for a lagging indicator is a mathematical death sentence. You must predict the friction before it occurs. You must stress test the human architecture. Phase 2, architecting the digital twin, the agentic persona. To execute this stress test, we abandon the whiteboard and move directly into the silicon layer. We must architect the digital twin employee. What exactly is a digital twin in this context? It is not basic single-turn chatbot. It is a highly complex autonomous agentic persona powered by large language model, the LLMs, connected to a vector database of your company historical operational data and programmed with specific psychological parameters. We do not just create one twin, we spin up an entire synthetic fleet that perfectly mirrors your 2026 organizational chart. If you are a massive logistics firm operating out of Jebel Ali, and your new 2026 strategy requires a seamless integrations of 50 supply chain analysts, 10 regional managers, and 5 compliance directors, we program 65 distinct digital agents. We inject these agents with high-fidelity human constraint, the fatigue variable. We program the agent to simulate the cognitive decay if they are assigned more than 45 hours of deep work in a simulated week. The information silo bias. We program the regional manager agent with an algorithmic bias towards hoarding data rather than sharing it freely across department. The attrition threshold. We give the high-performing analyst agent a patience matrix. If they experience a prolonged administrative latency, such as waiting 3 simulated days for a manager to approve a basic requisition, their frustration scores compound. When the score hits 100, the digital twin permanently deletes its own workflow. It quits. We have essentially built a virtual, highly realistic terrarium of your corporation. The agents are wired into a simulated environment mirroring your exact communication channels, your Slack architecture, your email hierarchies, and your enterprise resource planning ERP approval gates. We are no longer guessing how humans will react to the new strategy. We are watching high-fidelity cognitive clones attempts to execute the strategy at the speed of light. Phase 3, the adversarial simulation, the synthetic sabotage. Once the fleet of digital twins is deployed into the simulated organizational structure, we do not just sit back and watch. We actively execute the adversarial simulation. We operate as an ultimate red team. Our sole objective is to break your perfect 2026 strategy. We induce the crisis now in the sandbox to save your human capital later. We introduce violent, unexpected operational shock into the simulation. We simulate a 30% sudden spike in clients' demands. We simulate a critical failure in a central Oracle cloud server, cutting off access to the primary database of 48 hours. We inject adversarial twins, a digital twin specifically programmed with the personality profile of a toxic micromanaging vice president who aggressively countermands directives and hoards project budget. This is the ultimate stress test. We are winding the synthetic clock forward, compressing 2 years of intense corporate friction into 72 hours of heavy computation. We watch as the digital twin attempt to navigate the chaos using the rules of your new organization blueprint. At first, the system holds, but as the simulated hours tick by, the friction compound. The toxic vice president agent begins rejecting the requisition of supply chains analyst because your new organization chart removed the bypass protocol. The analysts are algorithmically trapped. Their simulated fatigue variable spikes. Their attrition thresholds max out. Suddenly, a massive cascade failure occurs within the simulation. 10 digital analysts quit simultaneously. The remaining agents are instantly overloaded with displaced workflows, causing their own fatigue variables to breach. The cross-functional communication completely collapses into isolated silos. The synthetic operational output drops to 0. We have successfully triggered a total structural collapse. Phase 4, identifying the breaking point, the value stream autopsy. The simulation has crashed, your 2026 strategy has burned to the ground. But because this happened entirely in the silicon layer, you haven't lost a single real-world dollar. And you haven't alienated a single human employee. Now we execute the forensics autopsy. We deploy the value stream mapping directly onto the wreckage of the simulation. When human employees quit in the real world, HR conducts an exit interview. The human usually lies. They say they are leaving for a better opportunity. Because they do not want to burn bridges, you never learn the actual structural reason for the failure. Digital twins do not lie. They leave a perfect, immutable, cryptographic audit trail of their exact demise. We analyze the logs to identify the exact mathematical breaking point. The data reveals that the collapse did not occur because the analysts were underpaid or because the client demands were too high. The collapse occurred precisely at node 4 of a new approval matrix. Your 2026 blueprint mandated that all external vendors' contracts required simultaneous approval from both regional management and the central compliance. In the simulation, the central compliance agent operated on a 24-hour SLA, service level agreement, but the regional managers were caught in a continuous simulated meetings, creating an asymmetrical latency. The contracts piled up at the intersection. The digital analysts could not execute their mandate. The friction burned them out. The strategy failed because the architectural routing of authority was mathematically flawed. We have found the bleeding wound. We have isolated the exact hidden vulnerability that human consultant looking at a static PowerPoint slide missed entirely. We proved that if you have rolled this strategy out to your actual human workforce, your top talent would have resigned within 6 months and the project would have required a multi-million dirham rescue operation. Phase 5, the sovereign reconstruction, architecting the unbreakable org. We have torn the strategy down, now we execute the sovereign reconstruction. Armed with an exact algorithmic data of the failure, we rewrite the 2026 organizational blueprint. We apply Lean Six Sigma methodologies to the structural flow of authority. We redesign Node 4. We implement an asynchronous automated approval pathways for vendor contracts below AD 100,000, entirely removing the biological bottleneck of the regional manager. We flatten the reporting structures for the analyst, giving them unilateral algorithmic authority to execute routine supply chain bypasses during a server crisis. We update the rules of environment and we restart the simulation. We unleash the exact same adversarial attacks. We introduce a 30% client spike. We crash the simulated servers. We redeploy the toxic vice president agent. We fast forward the synthetic clock. This time, the structure absorbs the shockwave. The analyst hit the bottleneck, but the asynchronous routines kicks in automatically. The workflow bypasses the toxic manager. The digital twin registers elevated stress variables, but they do not breach their attrition threshold. The system bends, but it does not break. The simulated output drops by 5% during the crisis, but it fully recovers within 48 hours. The organization survives. This is what it means to be an Apex executive in April 2026. You do not gamble with the biological and financial stability of your workforce. You do not roll out strategy and hope for the best. You use cold, hard computation to predict the future. You hire a digital twin specifically to quit, so that your real human engineers never have to. You deploy adversarial agent to find the weak point in your own armor before the global market find them for you. Look closely at the expensive, glossy, strategic roadmap sitting on your desk right now. It is untested, it is fragile. It is an illusion waiting to be shattered by the friction of the real world. Stop managing your company through lagging indicators. Embrace the physics of agentic simulation. Induce the crisis, find the breaking point, and rebuild your architecture to be mathematically, undeniably unbreakable. Process the data, execute the strategy, and I'll see you at the top.